This is the red wool jacket. Now I'm feeling kind of spicy, so I made a spice jacket in wool. You can use any kind of fabric you want to for this. Usually if I teach in Florida or Arizona and I say the word wool, people run for the hills. So you can make this out of any kind of fabric. Suede would be great in this jacket, so you get to choose. Make sure that you follow the directions that are in the book, step-by-step sewing directions on making this jacket. You obviously know we're going to start with our master top pattern. You need to purchase pattern-ease to make yourself the pattern. You can purchase that on my website. Now we're going to start with a knit top pattern. And again, make sure that you make this into the woven jacket pattern. If you go to chapter 2, it tells you how to convert this pattern into a woven jacket pattern. So follow those directions. How much do you need to add to the side seams and the underarm seams? It really kind of depends on what you're making. I'm going to suggest that you add as much as 3/4 of an inch to the side seam, even maybe up to an inch to the side seam, because you can always take it in. You can't make it happen if it isn't there, but you can always take it in and cut it away. So that's really where all of the bulk comes into a jacket, is at the side seam. Now the other thing I like to do is to put a yoke into the jacket. There is a yoke directions on the jacket to tote, but let's talk about this on this wool jacket. I like yokes because it takes your eye away from the shoulder seam. I get a lot of ladies in my classes that they always are very concerned about the fact that they have sloping shoulders and they don't want to wear shoulder pads. I don't want to wear shoulder pads either. So let me give you a little hint. If you look at the dress form, you see there is no shoulder seam. If you have sloping shoulders, may I suggest that you bring that shoulder seam down to the front, because this is where your eye goes, not right there. And right here is almost like an arrow pointing to your sloping shoulders. So if you bring that forward, I think you're going to be a little bit happier. And it's a really simple thing to do. Make yourself a yoke. Now this is the front of my garment. This is the front of the jacket. And I've added an inch to the center front. And like I said, I've added an inch to the side seam or more. You could even add more if you wanted to. You could make this yoke really small in the front. Again, that's totally up to you. But when you make a yoke, it's really easy. Let me show you how you're going to make a yoke. You're going to take your front and your back, and you've cut them out, and you're literally going to sew them together with your 1/2 inch seam. Now when you sew pattern-ease, make sure that you put it on a basting stitch. And a basting stitch is the longest stitch on your machine. And the reason that you use a basting stitch is you want to pull this out. You don't want to have a little tiny stitch you have to go digging after. So you want to pull that out. So once you've done this, I can open this up and I can decide where to put that yoke. All right? And I'm going to get that yoke back out and show you. This is the shoulder seam. So can you see, this is where the yoke would be. And this is where the yoke would be. Now, I like to do this because I like to have everything convenient for me. So I would literally sew this together and I would cut it apart right there, and that would become my yoke. And I don't ever have to guess about it anymore. Now the reason we put a yoke in the back is I'm going to put a pleat in the back, and I don't want that pleat going all the way up to the neck edge. It's too bulky. So it's much easier to put a yoke in the back. But isn't this an easy way to do a yoke? And it's fast. So here's my back yoke, and it's going to look like this. And here's the seam, all right? And again, as I said, I would sew these two together so you can cut it as one. So let me put these two together so I can show you what it's going to look like after it's sewn. You know, pattern-ease is probably the most wonderful product I've found because it has no markings on it. I've seen other pattern tracing materials that have red dots on it, and that drives my eyes crazy. And I've seen it that has green lines on it. And I know a lot of quilters use that as a guide because it has inch markings on it. But I like pattern-ease because it has nothing on it. So this would be my yoke pattern. So this is where I would lay this on the fold of the fabric and cut this all as one. So really simple to do. Then what you're left with is the front part, and you're left with the back. Now the sleeve obviously is going to have that put into it, the excess on the side. So this would be my back. Can you see that I've laid this back, and you can see that red line, hopefully. I've laid that back about 4 inches, and you can do up to 6 if you want to, away from the fold, because this is what's going to create the yoke. The pleat in the back of your coat, and that's what's going to give you a lot of comfort. And I'm going to show you a little trick in just a second. So this is the front of my jacket, as you can see, and this is a really pretty purple fabric, and I like it because it has black on the other side. Now you're going to be amazed at what I tell you this is. That's the selvage. So we're using every bit of this piece of fabric that there is. So I literally cut off the selvage and then stitched it to the front of my jacket for a detail. Isn't that pretty? So let me show you when I fold this back. That's what the front of the jacket is going to look like. Isn't that gorgeous? Really pretty. So it's like a fabric that double-faced fabric. Now over the top of where I stitched this on, I just used some trim. You could use yarn, or you could use heavy cord, whatever you wanted to stitch over the top to hide where you stitch the edge of this on. So it's really easy to do. Let me turn around and show you the pocket. And on the pocket, I've stacked a button. Now when you stack, and by the way, you have the pocket pattern in your on the directions in the book. There's the pocket pattern, and I love pockets, but let me show you something fun about this pocket. These buttons have been stacked. The first button was sewn on, and then the second button, I put the tie through it. That's the same yarn that I used on the front of the jacket. And then I actually glued it, and I glued the two together with Steam-A-Seam. So, not Steam-A-Seam, I'm sorry, E6000. I glued the two together with E6000, so it really does make it, it's a cute detail, and it's not going to get lost. So the pocket is really a cool detail, but look at the pocket that I did on this one. Let me turn her around just a bit. On this one, I didn't use the fold over to the pocket. I just used the edge of that, and that's folded to the inside to give you kind of like a facing to the pocket. And then I just used cord. I turned a tube of the fabric and just twisted it and put a little detail in the middle of it. You could even use a button there if you wanted to, so really pretty to do. Now the button in the front, you can see that's a glass button, and it's just a very decorative button that I found in my button stash. And I gotta tell you, the best place to find a button stash is at yard sales. They have great buttons at yard sales. On the edge of this jacket is also some cord. So it's just a way to finish the edge, and I tell you what stitch to use in the book. So make sure that you do that. Now one little detail for you, and this is the end, and boy, you're gonna love this one. A zipper. You're going to use a zipper in the back of your coat, and I'll show you why. When I turn this around, can you see there's a zipper in the back of the coat? That zipper is put into the pleats with your glue stick. So you're actually going to glue that in place. Now watch what happens when I unzip the zipper, and you can see now why I used a yoke in there. Look how much more room you have in the back of your jacket, and it's really a cute detail. I have to tell you, I had this jacket on one day, and some lady came up to me and she said, "Did you know you have a zipper in the back of your jacket?" And I couldn't resist it. I went, "Really?" So she laughed. I think she was kind of surprised she'd even asked that question. But it's a great way to get just a little bit more movement in the back of your jacket. So make yourself some coats. I hope you enjoyed the video. Now it's time to check out the website. Everything is on there. You can purchase the pattern, the book, all the notions I talked about. You can join the Fit Club and check out the classes where I'm teaching. And be sure to follow me on Facebook.